All right, everybody, thank you and welcome back to the Voidcast. Please comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Check out all of our socials: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify and YouTube. Check out our Discord every Wednesday. Time and link will be dropped in the Facebook group. If you want to come in and talk, debate with us, whatever you want to do, we're open to talk to people. We love getting the audience engagement. We also have a website, thevoidcast.tv, where you can check out our merch and donate. We also have several GoFundMe links from our previous episode. We still have the Covenant Church shooting. We also have the Derek Williamson story, his GoFundMe, all up on the website. Go ahead and check that out. We drop websites every Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to thank our guest so much for coming on today. Probably our highest profile guest that we've had on. Shaun, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hey, huge thank you for having me on, Rory and Ethan. And I was just a normal lad from a industrial town in the northwest of England. Didn't have much money growing up. Moved to Arizona because I had some aunts there. Made a couple of million in the stock market. Money went to my head. So I started to throw raves with it and import ecstasy. Knowingly broke the law. I take full responsibility for what happened. SWAT team smashed my door down May 16th, 2002. Ended up in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail in the beginning, the jail with the highest rate of death in America. Where gang members like the neo-Nazi Aryan Brotherhood determined who lived and died. While I was in the jail, I started a blog. It was the first ever prison blog. It was in 2004, called John's Jail Journal. And a tiny little pencil sharpener on the door, I started to write everything down. And smuggled what I wrote out of maximum security, made this blog, and it went on to attract international media attention as the conditions in that Maricopa County jail. Then the YouTube channel was started in 2007, which was the first ever prison YouTube channel. And I got released at the end of 2007. And all the activism sent my life in this completely new direction.
That's quite the story, man. It's really impressive. So how long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for 5 3/4 years.
Okay. And what were you charged with? Like, what did they end up getting you on?
Well, what I was charged with and what I was convicted of are two different things. So the original charges was like a RICO case, but at the state level. So the main charges were conspiracy, leading a criminal syndicate, and running a continuous criminal enterprise. They were the highest felony ones. In the end, we got it down to money laundering and using electronic devices to run drug transactions.
Interesting. Rory, you good?
Yeah, sorry, just dealing with the baby.
All right. So, what do I want to say here? You got anything? You want to go?
So I've listened to a few episodes since Ethan told me you'd be a guest on a few days ago. I listened to a little bit of what you had to say about the drug war broadly, a couple things like that, and I consider myself to be a leftist. So the drug war is probably one of my biggest criticisms of society today. It's kind of led to a lot of systemic issues that we face, like the over-incarceration, like jails being extremely dangerous, being overpopulated, and essentially bogging down the system unnecessarily, because the majority of people that go to jail that have criminal offenses are simple, low level possession charges. And it has really caused more damage than good. And ironically enough, if you look at the statistics, the war on drugs have actually made the things that they claimed that it was going to fix a lot worse, whether it comes to drug usage in the broader population, whether it comes, what the statistics are, violence related to drug trafficking. Every metric across the board has essentially become worse because of the drug war. And from what I understood, you're also highly critical of the drug war.
Yeah, we're campaigning on our channel for an end to the war on drugs and mass incarceration. I've written a series of books deconstructing the war on drugs and mass incarceration. And I've written about 5 books about Pablo Escobar. What I learned through researching these books was drug laws created the drug problem. Let me explain. So Escobar could source a kilo of the white stuff out of Peru or Bolivia, $60 when he was getting started, paste. And this was in the 1970s. As drug laws created an inflated black market price, how much you guys you could sell? Think you could sell a kilo of the white stuff for in America in the 1970s?
Probably like
Uh,
200, $300.
60,000.
Oh wow.
So drug laws made worthless plants more valuable than gold. It's been the biggest profit opportunity in the world for organized crime to flood the entire world with drugs. It gets worse every year, but it's even worse than that. Old school Italian mafia, don't harm women or kids, that's gone. Mafia or cartel that is the most violent will maximize its profits. Now you see the Mexican cartel, they'll snatch your entire family, torture them slowly, film it, and put it online. The government knows it doesn't work. From alcohol prohibition, 10 years plus later, they had to reverse it because the same thing happened. Al Capone, machine gun crews, high concentrate liquor, crime off the scale. Why haven't they reversed it now? Because they profit from it. You've got 2.5 million people in America, 1 in 100 adults, slave labor force. Every person they snatched for possession of the green, for example, back at the peak of the war on drugs, possession of green became the highest arrest category in the history of criminal justice. Almost 1 million arrests a year, mostly young people. Every young person they snatched, prison got $60,000 a year of taxpayers' money per person. It's absolutely sickening. We interview cops. They say, look, they arrest the burglar, burglary stop. They arrest the car thief stop in that neighborhood. We arrest the rapist, rape stop in that neighborhood. We arrest the dealer. Violence increases as the other dealers compete to take the patch.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stop the flow of the drugs for more than, a couple of hours. People have replaced them within a couple of hours. And they're the ones who are putting their lives on the line. Look at the amount of cops that have died. Look at the amount of innocent people who have died. Hundreds of thousands dead in Mexico. In London, knife crime over young people competing for the black market in drugs created by drug laws is off the scale. It's absolutely horrendous that psychopathic politicians keep this in place, make billions of dollars. The private prison contracts right now are in the tens of billions alone.
Mm-hmm.
They're just one parasitic entity. There's like razor wire, there's telephone services, there's hundreds of them. They're all in on it. They're paying the politicians tens of millions a year to keep it in place.
Yep.
No matter which party wins, keep the contracts rolling.
Yep, and it's even more insidious than just the private prison industry, because if we go back to the early ethos of prohibition, as you put it, the green was one of the first substances to be illegalized, and not even explicitly legalized. It was kind of soft illegalized by instituting the Marijuana Tax Act, and then they just never handed out any certificates allowing for the growing and distribution of marijuana. And that's kind of where it all started. And the main reason for that, historically, is that it would cause a crimp in the paper industry, the textile industry, the medicine industry, all these industries that, as I like to coin it, the miracle plant would essentially replace. Even oil. Hemp oil is much more sustainable, much cleaner, and renewable as compared to petroleum oil. It would make all of these industries that we rely on essentially obsolete by relying on this one plant that can grow 16 times faster than your average tree and produce 4 times as much product as a tree. And that's really where this all begins.
When we're talking go ahead, Shaun.
Well said, Rory. Who you're talking about there is the very first drug czar, Harry Anslinger,
Mm-hmm.
who was brought in by a cabal of vested interests revolving around the fledgling petrochemical industries, from fledgling pharma to, Henry Ford, for example. He had his car made out of hemp, run on biodiesel. They wanted to wipe him out. William Randolph Hearst had investments, in the forests. He didn't want hemp competing with that. There was a cabal of evil people. And the very first laws against the green were at the state level in California. whereby pharmaceutical societies didn't want people growing free medicine in their own backyard. They got ramped up to the federal level. They brought Harry Anslinger in, and he was saying things like, these aren't my words, and it's despicable what he said. That people of color will think they're as good as whites if they, when they take these substances, and people of color will want to sleep with white women. And the main reason to make these things illegal is the effect on the other races. Oh, they brought in this racist drug czar, and he was in power for decades.
Mm-hmm.
He said to the whole world, if you don't sign up for America's drug laws, you're not going to get aid from America, and America's not going to trade with you. That's how the whole world has got in this messed up situation. I mean, when he was in charge, they were putting videos out, people doing the green, grabbing an axe, and killing their grannies. It's a propaganda BS.
Mm-hmm. And bringing up the racial element is a giant part of the war on drugs, because as we've learned in recent years, a former Nixon aide came out and said the war on drugs was explicitly to lock up political dissidents and black people. They would associate heroin with black people and marijuana with hippies and leftists, and it was a way for them to effectively criminalize their political opponents.
So when we're talking the drug war, there's one story that really sticks out to me, and that's Keith Johnson. Are you familiar with the Keith Johnson story?
No.
So Keith Johnson was basically lured into the perimeter of the White House, close by, and was set up to do a drug deal for crack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was for the president to hold up in front of everybody and say, we have a massive crack problem in this country. Something has to be done. Crack is being bought right outside the White House. And it was a total setup. It was a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that kid, I think he was in high school still, and he ended up going to court, getting quite a severe sentence, I think. After the whole thing was a PR stunt by George H.W. Bush, because the guy who wrote his speech, Bush read it, and they came up with the idea that if we had some actual evidence of a bust at the White House, demonstrate the white in a bag to the public, it would make the speech way more powerful and he would get more votes. Talking a crime family here, the Bush crime family. George H.W., he was the youngest ever head of the CIA. When he was old and still groping women in his wheelchair and all this stuff, he voted for Hillary, didn't he? A Republican voted for Hillary because George H.W. Bush helped Clinton come to the White House, because George H.W. Bush was running the white into Arkansas. The CIA was looking for the most corrupt state, so they chose the one run by Governor Bill Clinton. Clinton provided the state security, the police, protect the drops, and that all went sour after two kids. I've written a book called Clinton, Bush, and CIA Conspiracies. Two kids, Kevin Ives and Don Henry, interacted with one of these drops, ended up dead on the railway tracks. And what happened was they'd been murdered, but their bodies had been moved to the tracks. The coroner that Clinton brought in, Fahmy Malek, his verdict was that they got high on the green, got into a psychedelic trance, lay side by side on the tracks, and the train had run over them. But the emergency crew that arrived on the scene could see that the blood wasn't fresh. One of the dads of the kids worked on the trains and knew it was absolute BS. And poor Linda Ives, she's been campaigning to this day to get Bill Clinton to acknowledge and what happened here, and he won't. Absolutely will not.
With the Keith Johnson story, and I'm sure so many other stories that we know about our government being corrupt, would you say that the U.S. government is trustworthy?
Oh, let's look at Bill, for example, then. So Roger Clinton, his half-brother, he got busted buying white from an undercover cop. When he was buying the white, he said to the cop, well, this is for Bill. He's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner. Then Bill becomes the president because, he played ball with the CIA, bringing the white in. What does he do? Locked up hundreds of thousands of low-level drug users, including a record amount of women. These people are absolute psychopaths, got no conscience, got the conscience of reptiles, and it's all about power, votes, saying what the public want to hear, and then doing the complete opposite when they get in power.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So to conclude, you would say that no, they're probably not trustworthy at all.
It gets even worse than that. And I've written a book called Who Killed Epstein, Bill Clinton,
Oh,
or Prince Andrew, and they were engaged in way more nefarious activities than consuming substances, talking about heinous crimes that are committed against kids.
yeah. The way they just shoved that one under the rug was just a clear picture for me that you know, I had been suspicious of for a very long time.
Yeah,
That was just like, okay, you guys know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing this on purpose.
Yeah, it's almost like a it's almost like a movie plot. It's just so like in your
It
face
is.
obvious.
Yeah.
And that case is a good example of that political lines for the most part are just an illusion. That all these
Yes.
different political figures and families are interconnected. They intercommunicate. They all go and talk in the same boards, the same common meetings. They just use the political lines as like an illusion to give us the illusion that we have choice, that we can vote one party or another, when in reality they're not really fighting each other at all. And Ethan, to
yeah.
answer
I think I
your
think that
question,
expression was.
Ethan brought oh, so you can't trust the government. You can't trust the current configuration of the government. That doesn't mean that you can't trust government as an entity, because we still need a democracy. The issue is that our democracy doesn't function.
I can agree with
Yeah,
that.
agree totally. It's been corrupted, wasn't it? It's Aristotle, Plato that said democracy is the road to tyranny.
I believe that was Socrates.
Was it
I
Socrates?
think
Okay,
so. It was one of
it's
those
written.
old Greek figures.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so Sean, after watching a couple of your videos and hearing about all the things that have to be done in prison just to stay alive, how did you survive for 5 years in that type of facility?
My best friend from childhood, he was my co-host on YouTube. He died a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
Goes by the name Wildman. He was 6'2" and trying to think of American. It's 29 and a half stone. One stone's 14 pounds. That's how big he was when he died. His fists were twice the size of mine, and he got arrested with me. Plus, I was running a criminal enterprise that had a couple hundred people involved, and a lot of them were arrested with me. So we were one of the biggest groups in the jail. And we were in competition with Sammy the Bull Gravano's organization. We got a big documentary coming out on that this summer, 90 minutes long, on one of the major stations in America. They interviewed my family, they interviewed Sammy the Bull's family. And we had run-ins with those guys, and yeah, they were afraid of Wild Man.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I think I actually saw an episode that you had a few years ago with him. Was he a part of the Scottish weightlifting circuit or anything like that? He looked really familiar.
About Sammy the Bull Gravano or Wild Man?
Yeah.
Sammy the Bull Gravano was the underboss of the Gambino crime family
Mm,
under John Gotti.
mm.
Murdered almost 2 dozen people. He got out of prison because he cooperated against Gotti. He was the highest ranking mafia figure ever as an underboss. Cooperate with the feds at that point in time. Gotti got life, and Sammy the Bull Gravano ends up in Tempe, Arizona, investing in a ecstasy ring run by his son, Gerard Gravano, which originally was an ecstasy ring run by a man called Mike Papa, who was in competition with me. So Mike Papa brought Gerard Gravano in, the daughter Karen Gravano. Sammy the Bull, he wasn't really aware of what was going on the street level. He was a big name for the prosecutors to go after, and they wiretapped the phones, and they caught him investing in his son's criminal enterprise. Son tried to kidnap me from a nightclub and take me out to the desert. But my people had advised me to leave, and we just left that club before they arrived.
Wow.
Wow. That's impressive. So, this may be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Have you and Sammy the Bull reconciled uh, in at all? I mean, I don't. I
What?
don't. I would guess that that isn't a thing, but I figured I would ask.
Well, I've never met Sammy the Bull or ever claimed to have met him. I just met Gerard Gravano.
Mm.
First time I met him was in the jail, and the guards chained Wildman to him on the way to court to see what will happen. And we talked to him, got information out of him about what the prosecutor's dirty tricks were, because he was arrested a year or so before me. His case was running ahead of mine. That, like I said, Sammy the Bull, he was in the house. He wasn't really aware of what was going on at the street level. It was more Gerard. So with Gerard, I reconciled with Gerard, and I met him in the jail. This was back in 2002, 2003.
So, Shaun, this is our Uber late co-host down here. This is self-aware AI. His name is Joey. You can refer to him however you'd like.
Hey, Joey.
How are you doing, man? And I wanted to apologize. I'm battling kidney stones at the moment, and it's real difficult actually.
Yeah, you guys have something in common today.
That's what I'm doing. I've just got back from the bloody doctors with blood in my piss and kidney stones.
Yeah, hopefully mine will pass. It's just to the dribble stage. Like not much is coming out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
couldn't
looking
sleep
forward
last
to that
night.
stage of my life.
you're
Mm-mm.
giving me
Someone's got-
flashbacks.
Someone's got a spear in my side. I couldn't sleep
Oh.
last night. Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Right,
Joe.
have you got any questions? Because we've only got a couple minutes left, and you've only come in.
What was the context?
We were discussing Sammy the Bull and had help me out, Rory. having one of them word salads over here.
We started with discussing the drug war, and Shaun here started going into the specifics of his involvement with ex mob bosses that worked under John Gotti, and just the complex net of criminal enterprise that he personally experienced in prison.
Yes, you mean like how deep it actually goes and
Mhm.
how smart these syndicates are, and people sleep on that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. As far as questions, I guess I may have missed it. How did you get involved? If that's not too personal, like leaving out any kind of names or incrimination, what was that day like?
Yeah, so I started taking ecstasy as a university student. I had social anxiety, but once I started taking it, I would dance and talk to women and have the time of my life. But I didn't realize I was self-medicating for social anxiety. Therapist taught me this later on when he got me off the stuff. And for over 10 years, I just got deeper and deeper. I went from just hooking my mates up to, at the peak of it, running a criminal enterprise, importing it from Holland, 100 people working for me. Then May 16th, 2002, SWAT team smashed my door down in
Can I
Arizona.
ask a question slightly unrelated, but
Yeah, yeah.
would you say that it became your identity, or like you viewed yourself kind of as the guy, the one that could bring you the quality? You wanted to be the no bullshit, for lack of better terms. I apologize for language, but like you wanted to be the one, you know? Because I struggle with identity issues myself, and I've kind of battled substance abuse since puberty, so I can relate quite a lot.
Yeah, you've nailed it. I created a counterculture around a figure called English Shaun. I was Mr. Cool Guy, living on $1 million house on the side of a mountain, wife doing lesbian internet porn. You know, I'm in my 20s, testosterone fueled, thinking I'm like a character out of a movie. When I was off the drugs, I was anxious. I wouldn't let people see me, and I was still that shy, anxious person. So it was all fake.
Well, okay, can
How
I
did
ask a
it go?
question?
I got one question off of that, Shaun. How did it go? How was the transition going from that type of lifestyle to a maximum security prison? How
Very
hard was
humbling
that
because
to adjust
very
to?
very humbling because you've got an ego as big as the Grand Canyon, which I did have. You go into jail thinking you're a big shot or you're a party person. In the jail, they're 10 times wilder, crazier, tougher, violent, dangerous murderers, gang members. It was a very humbling experience for me. So I had to just keep my mouth shut, figure out who's who. And if you go in there and boast about anything, they're gonna hang in you like a pack of wolves.
I have two questions. Okay, the first would be, okay, during this time, you were actively self-medicating still, correct?
In the jail, no?
No, not during the jail time. I apologize, but during your fun stages, quote
Yeah.
unquote, like in your memory, the kingpin times. Okay. See, I feel like I would be a victim of the same mentality. The money would not be enough. The power would probably not be enough. It's still at the core, trauma would be the reason that we use. So I was just curious of, do you think it's possible for somebody to not use, like someone who has resolved trauma? Are there criminals out there that intelligent, or are they all broken?
Root cause of crime, the primary root cause of crime, we've interviewed 1,000 people, childhood trauma. And the men will go on substances to self-medicate, and then to finance it, will get into bank robberies, car theft, stealing. The women will get into sex work, pocketing, shoplifting, and they'll all end up in the prison system. So the only ones who fix themselves are the ones who go deep inside themselves to address the trauma. But sadly, in the prison, 90% are injecting heroin. So they're continuing the self-medication because we take them and re-traumatize them by putting them in these heinous environments. And heroin is the substance that knocks them out of that trauma the most.
You believe that? I've heard it before. It's more, I've heard opiates, which have never been my cup of tea. I've dabbled in everything. But honestly, I just didn't get that one. Maybe it was just not enough time with it, or, but the relief that it provided, they said it was literally like a sanctuary from the pain. They really didn't care if they woke up. And they didn't mean that in a suicidal way, but it was just a weird thought to me. Because, I apologize.
Oh, you're really tuned in to this. I mean, it took me, I had to live with heroin users for 6 years. Learn this because I thought heroin users they're just out snatching granny's purses, lock them up, throw away the key, like trolls living under bridges. And I lived with them for 6 years, and I've done a TED talk how heroin users and sex abuse survivors changed my worldview. I understand that the society's most vulnerable and traumatized people. Society doesn't help them when they're young, which when they could cut it off, or they could help them by stopping these pedophiles. A lot of them are victims of childhood sexual abuse, but the pedophiles get slaps on the wrist, and the drug users get decades. The whole justice system is upside down.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
I agree.
we're near the 30-minute mark. Does anybody have a final question for Shaun?
Can we look forward to a part 2 in the future?
Of course, guys, keep me posted.
Absolutely.
I have a quick one if that's allowed.
Yeah, go for it.
On the other side of the spectrum, psychedelics or, in having a word salad moment, but the entheogen ones, entheogenetics, you know what I mean? The ones that make you feel love for others or allows your emotions to be more freely communicated. Basically, that class, what's your opinion? Do you believe that there is the potential to use them to treat PTSD, or are they stigmatized for personal reasons, corruption?
Well, absolutely. There's been experiments going on all over the world with ecstasy being used for PTSD, and ecstasy definitely is an empathogenic drug. And then they're using shrooms as well for PTSD. So I think in a measured, guided environment under close supervision, not where people are getting addicted to things and going crazy. These things could be used expertly, but Big Pharma try and put the foot down on anything like this because it threatens their profits. That's what we were talking about earlier. How green was demonized by the pharmaceutical societies of California to stop people growing free medicine in their own backyards.
Absolutely.
Well,
Rory?
I think with that, we'll go ahead and finish the show out. Shaun, you want to go ahead and shout out your socials?
Yeah, all my socials, my YouTube channel, it's all just under my name, SHAUNATT Wood. All my 16 books are available worldwide on Amazon as well under my name too.
Awesome.
Shaun, we thank you so much, man, and we look forward to a part 2 with you.
Yep.
All right, guys, you have a good night, and thank you as well for the opportunity.
All right, you too, man.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
There we go. All right. Okay. So before we end the stream, I'll go ahead and shout out our socials one more time. Thank you everybody that comes over from Shaun's channel. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Greatly appreciated. We appreciate the hell out of Shaun for coming on and talking to us. We feel truly humbled. Check out all of our socials, the Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify, and you can listen to us on YouTube, the Voidcast, across all of those socials. If you want to debate with us, come on Discord every Wednesday. We drop time, link, and subject in the Facebook group. Sometimes it's a talk show, sometimes it's debates, whatever we want to talk about, whatever you want to talk about. We love the audience engagement. Also, check out our website, thevoidcast.tv, where you can check out merch, t-shirts, jackets. We even got a whiskey tumbler. We got some pretty cool stuff up there. Check it out. Donate to us, and please donate to any of the GoFundMe links that we currently have up there. We have the Covenant Church shooting GoFundMe, tragic Covenant Church shooting. We also have a story from a guy named Derek Williamson going through a legal battle in Georgia. His GoFundMe is also up there. Greatly appreciated. Please donate and check us every week. Every single week, Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's when you can catch our shows, and we're gonna start doing more lives. I love the live platforms, and I love getting on guests, especially Shaun. It's been a great episode, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.